What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to isnt Gaming, and today we are going to be talking about all the things you could do to counter Tsukuyomi. Now, before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to keep up with any future content, or watch me live on Twitch. I'll be leaving both those links in the description below. Now, there's something you need to realize about Tsukuyomi, right? And that's he hits belligerently hard. So there's really not going to be too much counterplay to this character. However, hopefully this can help you at least manage this character a little bit better. Now, the first thing you could do against Tsukuyomi is have somebody on your team with an AoE stun, i.e. Karna, maybe like a Terra, somebody who can keep this character still. Because this character is extremely weak to CC. This move here comes out really slow, and then after his ult, during the dashes, you can actually stun him out of his dashes. Those are the two times you really want to try to CC this character. Another thing with this character is that he's extremely immobile. Well, not immobile, but he doesn't have a run move. He doesn't have anything to get him in and out of situations. So his best play is to just kind of play safe and trap areas where he thinks you're gonna walk. But if you can get past these traps and get straight to him, he basically dies. He can't really get away from you, and the only thing he can do is hope he can juke with his second ability. But if you stun him out of that, he's screwed. So the main thing where the chunk of this video is going to be coming from are the items you can build to counter this character. First of all, Brawler's Beat Stick for physicals, or Divine Ruin for magicals, or some kind of anti-heal item like Contagion or Pestilence, or something along those lines, will stop this character in his tracks. Because this character is going to be building lifesteal. If you didn't know, I don't understand why, but he gets a lot of healing off of Soul Eater. His healing scaling with this card alone is absolutely ridiculous. And most of the time he's going to be trying to run this item. So getting some anti-heal is a great way to start to counter this character. Another great item that's going to counter this character is this, Hide of the Nemean Lion. So this character's been out for a while, so you know that he has raged basics. And so he'll lose a good chunk of his damage from Hide of the Nemean Lion. And because you block Hide of the Nemean Lion, he won't get the movement speed steal from Dark Moon, and he won't get the true damage off of the basic attack off of the Caltrops, which is really, really strong. Another good item to use to counter this character, if you're squishy or even if you're a tank to try to help and CC this character, is Wingblade. Obviously, just because of these Caltrops. He can't really do his setups and get away from you or slow you down if you have Wingblade, which is a lot of where his kit comes from, and that's just movement. Another great item against this character is obviously Mantle of Discord. Now, a lot of newer players that I noticed don't like building at least a single tanky item to help save their lives, and that's something you're going to have to start doing, especially with a character like Tsukuyomi, because he capitalizes off of people not building items against him. So if you have a Mantle of Discord, he can't, especially if he tries to ult you, if he puts you below threshold, then he gets stunned for 1 second, and then you could dump everything on him and essentially kill him. So that's really strong. So that is actually really, really strong. Also, you could probably be running, where is it? If you're magical, if you're magical, you can run the equivalent of Runic Shield against him to reduce the amount of damage he does dish out. Obviously, building a Sovereignty will help your team out, so you can help deal with the damage. There are a lot of things you can do to counter this character. Namely being just trying to stop his slows and stop him from just instant killing somebody with the Piercing Moonlight. So you're going to want things that can stop his slows, you're going to want things that can stop his basic attacks or stop him from basic attacking you, i.e. Nemean Lion, and you want something that can kind of help reduce the amount of damage he dishes out, because just with this passive alone, he deals a lot of damage. So the next part I'm going to want us to talk about are characters that I think, not exactly counter pick, but can help you deal with the character. The first character I think that can actually deal with Tsukuyomi really well is Ravana. Reason being, because of the overhead kick he has. If you don't know, this gives him CC immunity and damage immunity Therefore, when Tsukuyomi does his second ability, if you save his Ravana's 2, he can evade the biggest hitting part of Tsukuyomi's 2, and then get rid of the disarm on him. Then he can start basic attacking, and he has all the sustain with his 3 and his 1. And then on top of the fact that after a certain amount of basic attacks, he does get a shield along with movement speed. So this character can deal with them pretty well, especially if he can get this ult off, which will debuff Tsukuyomi so he deals less damage to him. So Ravana is actually a really good pick for somebody for an assassin if you're trying to deal with Tsukuyomi just a little bit better. Another person I think can deal with Tsukuyomi pretty well is Thor. Reason being is because this character still does a massive amount of damage, and the fact that he has a stun really helps him in the matchup. If you're noticing a pattern here, it's people who can either evade his stun or stun him out, stun Tsukuyomi out of his 2, right? So Thor is a really good choice because of the extra damage he gets off of hitting his 1 twice and then his 3, right? And then this ultimate here can stun him for a pretty long time if you have to drop on Tsukuyomi. So this character is really good if you're looking for another good counter. The last person as far as assassins go that I think can counter Tsukuyomi pretty decently well is Kali. Now Kali really isn't all that great of a character, I'll be 100% real with you. But the fact that she has an unkillable ult with this stun and bleed damage with just a little bit more sustain because of the bleed damage and her 1, she can deal with Tsukuyomi pretty well since she has natural sustain and a power buff. Now, this matchup I still think is 5-5, but I do still think it is a little bit in Tsukuyomi's favor just because of how much damage he can do and how easy it is for him to build and just be relevant from the early to late game. But once Kali hits a certain point in her build, she should start winning that matchup because Tsukuyomi really can't do anything about her just not dying. Now for Guardians that can counter Tsukuyomi, Kumakarna is a must-have, right? Because root, slow, stun, banish. Kumakarna has everything you need to deal with Tsukuyomi. Especially since if he sees that Tsukuyomi is ulting and he saves his mez, he will stun him out of his ult and then just CC him to death. So Kumakarna is definitely a must-have to counter Tsukuyomi. Now, Ardia is another good person, or another good Guardian, that can counter Tsukuyomi, just because while she's in bear form, she does have that stun. But this isn't really the best Guardian, as far as stuns and CCing Tsukuyomi goes. But she can be really strong just because of the stun if you have really good time. Now, Kabrakin, I 100% believe, can deal with Tsukuyomi really well. He has this first ability that makes him immune to slows and roots. He has this refraction shield which will stun, and then he has this tectonic shift which will keep Tsukuyomi from running away from him. Kabrakin can just simply kill Tsukuyomi outright if he builds right, especially since you can start seeing a lot of Tsukuyomis in the solo lane. Kabrakin is an amazing solo laner. So if you think that Tsukuyomi is going to be in the solo lane and you don't feel like dealing with him, Kabrakin is definitely a must-go. Now up next we have the Warriors, and the first warrior that I think, maybe not counter pick, but can deal really well with Tsukuyomi is Vamana. Namely because of Sleeping Giant, which converts his physical protections to physical power, and because of his ultimate, which will heal him, right? So his character is extremely safe, he can do a lot of damage, and then on top of the fact that if Tsukuyomi decides to try to kill him, and the Vamana is smart, he can just pop his ult and when Tsukuyomi is damaging him, Vamana's ultimate will start lasting longer. So you can actually deal a lot. So you can actually be healing for a lot more just because Tsukuyomi decided to ult you. So this character is definitely a really strong pick. You know she had to be on here, but Amaterasu can actually deal really well with Tsukuyomi. Reason being, if you didn't know, is that she has a heal in her 1. She has, what, 15% damage mitigations at max rank for her clear move. And then she has a dashing silence and a stun. Right? So Amaterasu can maybe not completely counter Tsukuyomi, but she can definitely deal with him. Up next for the Warriors, we have Cuchulainn. Now, even though Cuchulainn really doesn't have a lot of CC outside of his big form, he can still do a lot of damage. He has a good amount of tick damage. Plus, when he's in big form, it's when the counters really start coming into play, because his character is extremely aggressive. He can deal a lot of damage. He may not be able to outclear Tsukuyomi, but he doesn't really care about Tsukuyomi once he goes into big form. So this character could definitely run with him. Finally, we have the Mage class. Now, I would not recommend using a Mage against Tsukuyomi, because using a Mage against Tsukuyomi is probably asking to die. However, if you're the mid laner and you're trying to deal with the character as the jungler, Isis is a really good pick. She has this silence, she has this stun that's a lot easier to hit now. She has mobility in her 1, and then when Tsukuyomi tries to ult you, you have circle of protection. So you would drop this ult on top of yourself, and then when he starts dashing, right before you die, pop it, you'll get all that health back. He'll take a crap ton of damage because he ulted you, and then he puts himself in a really bad situation because now he has to deal with an Isis at full health and who has a stun and a silence. Another mage that I feel like can deal with Tsukuyomi good, deal with Tsukuyomi well in the solo lane is Chang'e. Now, for very obvious reasons, her cooldowns are just as strong as his. She has this Moonwaltz that will keep her from eating the stun from Tsukuyomi. You can heal herself with her 3, and then she has the ult that can stun him. However, this character in general isn't the greatest, so I wouldn't recommend picking this character unless you don't have any other choice. And finally, we are going to talk about Nox. Now, Nox isn't the easiest god to play. However, because of how her silence works and how this one works, she can deal with him pretty decently well. Now, I haven't 100% tested it to see what would happen if Tsukuyomi gets hit with a silence while he's ulting. However, it is something that can help you deal with his 2 and dealing with the fact that he's extremely immobile, so she can get a lot of benefit from hitting these 2 abilities alone with the tick damage on her. Now, those are all the gods that I think that can deal with Tsukuyomi really well. Like I said, not all of them are going to be counter picks, but they're all just for matchup purposes. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any other questions, don't forget to comment, and I'll get to it as soon as possible. And without further ado, I'll catch y'all